All right, so then one other thing we want to talk about. There's actually two other things. So if we have a little bit of time, we can.
Sure, we got plenty of time.
But the Sports Business Daily, which is an actual publication, believe it or not,
with actual reporters who actually are sourced very well.
Mm-hmm. They have a report up from John Orand and Michael Smith of the Sports Business Daily. That last week we were talking about how the Big 12 was finally going to explore expansion,
right?
Which we were all like giddy about. We're like, this is great, fantastic. It's great for the long-term future of the Big 12. Not so fast there, buddy. The Big 12's TV partners are not very happy. I'm going to read directly from Sports Business Daily. ESPN and Fox Sports believe that expansion from schools outside the Power 5 conferences will water down the Big 12 and make it less valuable, not more, sources said. But the Big 12 is financially motivated to add more teams. A clause in the conference's media deal stipulates that if the Big 12 expands, it would receive pro rata increases to its rights fees.
Right.
So what...
Clearly, ESPN and Fox signed this deal thinking, well, if you expand, you'll add Power 5 teams, and we'd be happy to pay for those Power 5 teams.
If you expand, then you're going to bring back in Nebraska.
Right.
Or you're going to go get Arizona State.
Yeah.
Or you're going to go get maybe a team from the SEC, and we'd be totally fine with that.
We will totally pay for that.
But now, ESPN and Fox are looking at this and saying, wait, you're going to add Houston and Memphis and BYU? We didn't sign up for that. Well, you kind of did. That's kind of in the contract that they can bring in teams, whoever they want. And so we know that it's going to be messy. We understand that. That's going to be messy. But this is, in my view, posturing from the networks. That they're not going to pull their TV deal because then they'll lose the rights to broadcast it.
Right.
And the whole point of college football at this point is who has the broadcast rights.
Right.
And right now, ESPN and Fox have the broadcast rights to the Big 12. And so if I'm the Big 12, and thank God I'm not, because boy, that would suck. But if I'm the Big 12, my response is, well, we're going to expand, and you guys can either deal with it or not, because we'll go get another contract.
Right.
You don't think NBC would love to go and grab the Big 12?
It's possible.
If ESPN and Fox are like, oh no, we're not going to do it.
Right.
Okay, CBS, step on up.
Right.
You know, the Big 12 and the SEC, you'd be just fine with that.
Yeah, and I think this is also this is more symptomatic of the place that Fox and ESPN have found themselves in, overextending the money that they've put out for rights as people are cord cutting constantly. I think they say in the article, the Big 12 could expand anyway, and these networks could take them to court over the contract, saying this isn't the spirit of the deal. And of course, the Big 12 could go, "This is the deal.
Yeah.
It is in the contract." And who knows what happens there? The worst part of it really is. And I think this is where Bob Bowlesby in the Big 12 would probably get in trouble, is if there are power brokers that can dissolve your conference down the road. These are the two.
Yeah.
Right. These are the two networks that would be fine helping all the other conferences bury you for gouging them now.
That's fine, but I think at this point, the Big 12 has to make a stand, and it has to say, listen, this is for the...
I would agree.
This is for the future of our conference. Like, yes, so we can have two different options. We can either placate our current network partners, or we can not exist in 10 years, or we can
make a stand.
We can burn a bridge right now, maybe, or harm a relationship right now for the long-term good of the conference. You have to weigh these kinds of things.
Well, look, and it's like we said, if you pick the right teams, and it's an investment for the future, and these schools all grow and find success over the next 10 years, and it truly does make the conference more valuable, well, then you win out in the end, right?
Yes.
No one's going to turn you away if you are a more valuable, significantly more valuable conference, and these four teams you've added have really added value.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think that I understand where these conferences or these networks are coming from, because think about it. They've paid a lot of money. They paid, let's see, the original deal pays $2.6 billion over 13 years. Okay, right. $2.6 billion with a billion. And I understand that that's a lot of money, but at the same time, this then speaks to maybe a little bit of short-sightedness on ESPN and Fox's part.
Yeah.
That basically, about 10 years ago, for those who aren't really in the know about sports media, about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, ESPN just decided to buy everything.
Yes.
And they're just like, yeah, we'll just take that and that and that and that and that. And in a lot of ways, it was a very forward-thinking move because then, yes, every Sunbelt game is not on ESPN Network, but it's on ESPN3.
Right.
And they can drive ad revenue based on that. And that's fine. I think it was very forward-thinking of them. But now, this is the chickens coming home to roost. That you're saying, hey, we paid $2.6 billion because you've got TCU and Texas and Oklahoma and Baylor and all these, Oklahoma State, all these big schools, Tech. We paid that. We don't want to pay $20 million per school annually to Connecticut.
Right.
Well, then maybe you should have written in some sort of deal into your contract.
Right.
I hate to say this, but the Big 12 is acting in their own best interest, and I have a hard time faulting them for that.
It's the first time they've shown a spine in a long time.
Absolutely.
And you got to do it at some point. It may be too late. Look, we may be in a situation here where they're digging the flag in and digging their heels in and saying, we're going to do what we feel is best for us. We have to do it. And maybe they should have done this 4 years ago, and that would have been the time to do it.
Right.
But you got to do it sometime.
You have to do it at some point. You have to stand up for yourself because otherwise you're just going to get walked all over until you don't exist anymore. Right. And the Big 12 is on I don't think it's a real controversial opinion to say that the Big 12 is kind of fighting for its life.
Yeah.
This is a conference that is on the ropes, and if there is a major one of the Power 5 conferences that is most in danger of dissolving, it's the Big 12.
Yeah, especially after the ACC locked up that network.
Absolutely. Yeah. The ACC looks like it's financially secure. The Big 10 is printing money. The SEC is printing money. The Pac-12 is doing.
They're
doing
a little bit of a limbo
They're
too.
doing okay.
Their network is an albatross.
Correct.
So that's a big problem for them. It makes them vulnerable going forward.
But they're doing better than the Big 12, which doesn't have a network. And so, I mean, basically, if Fox, the Big 12's play here is they say, all right, fine, you're not happy with us? That's fine. Hey, CBS, do you want to launch a network for us?
Right.
Because then, then Fox and ESPN are going to caught with their pants down and not have, then they're going to lose. And for Fox especially, I mean, ABC, ESPN, they've got enough rights that, okay, if they lose the Big 12, that would suck, but it wouldn't be a killer.
Right.
Because they've got secondary rights to the SEC. They've got secondary rights, or they got main rights to the ACC.
Right.
They got secondary rights to the Pac-12. They got a lot of different. They got a lot of thumbs and a lot of pies.
Right.
You know what I mean? Fox is basically in a situation where they're kind of picking up the scraps that ESPN didn't have.
Right.
So I mean, there's a reason that Fox is airing a lot of UFC.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a reason for that. Basically, they have Big East basketball and they have Big 12 football.
Right.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if they lose the Big 12,
they're
really up a creek. So
no, I mean, none of this is imminent, right?
No,
this contract
is all posturing.
Is very right.
And we're going to be talking about it for a year.
Right.
But
it would be interesting to see if ESPN and Fox said this isn't the deal we agreed to. We want out of it, and if the Big 12, which I would be stunned if they had this much foresight because they haven't shown it to this point, suddenly had someone waiting in the wings like an NBC or whatever with a network deal, that would be a hell of a power move. I certainly don't think that they've shown any reason for us to think that they are capable of that, but it'd be pretty interesting if it happened.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I understand both sides of the argument, but I side more with the Big 12 that they've at some point have to stand up for
Got to put up or shut up.
Exactly.
Right. They got to find a way.